So here we are with the final five. No, I didn't cut my hair in the meantime, I just tied them up. Okay, so my final five favorite Ronnie James Dio albums, which is almost like saying you which are my five favorite albums, period, because most of these would appear in that chart as well. But anyway, let's go. So at number five we have Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. So the debut album from the Rainbow, the new band created by Ritchie Blackmore, who was already an icon back in the day for his work with Deep Purple, obviously. And Ritchie had met Ronnie when he was in Elf, because Elf were playing as a support band, as an opening band for Rainbow, and a couple of tours. And also Roger Glover from Deep Purple had produced the Elf albums. All right, so actually, what Ritchie did with this album was he took the Elf lineup minus the guitar player and formed this new band. Okay, so and formed Rainbow. So this is a bit different compared to the albums that came after that. It's a bit more rock, maybe, and a bit lighter, because I mean they do not have Cozy Powell on drums yet, and Cozy will make a real difference. And we'll talk about it when we get to Rising. Anyway, it's an album where Ritchie put all of what he wanted to do at the time but couldn't do with Purple, and that means stuff like the Quatermass cover Black Sheep of the Family, for example, and other stuff very much inspired by his love for music from the Renaissance and classic folk music, and I'm thinking about stuff like 16th century Greensleeves or Temple of the King, or even Self-Portrait, which has that kind of melodies. And then of course you have the more rock songs, like more hard rock side of it, like Man on the Silver Mountain, Snake Charmer, which are heavier songs. And then you have, like, if you don't like rock and roll, which is absolutely rock and roll, I mean it's just a 2 minutes and a half very rock and straight forward rock and roll song. Anyway, this album is magic to me, and it's here that Ronnie starts to create his own lyrical style, with all the fantasy story and fairy tale kind of things, and there are some absolutely amazing lyrics here. I mean, Temple of the King is one of my favorite songs. One day in the Hero of the Fox came a time remembered well, and the strong young man of the rising sun heard the tolling of the big black bell. It's full of these little touches of another word, a fantastic word, and what can I say? It's really a perfect mixture of music and lyrics, which go together to create this amazing word. And the castle and the rainbow that you see on the cover is pretty much representative of the whole atmosphere that this album has, and it's absolutely one of my favorites, and it's absolutely incredible record. Okay, so that's it for number 5. Now we go to number 4. Alright, number 4. Ronnie James Dio forms his own band called Dio after the split with Black Sabbath, brings Vinny Appice with him, finds a new, young, and absolutely amazing guitar player called Vivian Campbell, and he gets his old mate Jimmy Bain, who was with him in Rainbow, on the bass. All right, and so the band called just Dio is born, and Holy Diver is their debut album. Of course, its debut is only partially a debut, since of course, I mean, apart from Vivian, the other guys were pretty much seasoned musicians at this point. Ronnie already had the Rainbow albums, the Black Sabbath albums, and the Elf albums under his belt, and Vinny, of course, had been in Sabbath with him, and Jimmy in Rainbow and other bands. So it was formally a debut, but actually it was some experienced musicians coming together and bringing in the new guy Vivian, who is amazing. It's from the side of the guitar playing, this is one of my all-time favorites. It's not just one of my all-time favorite albums. I really think that Vivian's work here is completely outstanding, and it embodies most of the things which I like to hear and I love to hear from a guitar player. All those riffs and those blistering solos, which always have a theme and a melody going through them. It's never mindless shredding. And don't get me started on his vibrato and pinch harmonics, and the way he plays. It's just on this record is outstanding. As you know, I'm a huge Def Leppard fan, but honestly, I don't think in Def Leppard Vivian ever had the chance to shine like he does on Holy Diver. All right, so it's just incredible. And Ronnie, of course, is at this point the heavy metal singer. It's just incredible the way he sings on this record, with the range that he has and the power that he has, and the way you listen to these songs and don't realize how high they are, how high pitched they are, until you actually try singing them, because his voice is so full and so powerful, even on high notes, that it really sounds like he's like in a very lower range than he actually is, just because of how perfect his voice is. So it's we're talking about an album which has classics like Holy Diver, which has one of the best openers ever, Stand Up and Shout, which has Don't Talk to Strangers, Invisible, Rainbow in the Dark, of course, which we made a cover version that you have heard, most likely if you're here. And there is not a single song here which isn't absolutely great. Caught in the Middle has some of my favorite riffings. Every song here is perfect, and this is really, to me, this is really a perfect album. I wouldn't call it any other way than perfect, honestly. It's just amazing. Okay, so this means, of course, that the three albums on top of this are even more perfect. But the reality is that these four albums, these top four albums, to me, they're more or less on all of the same level. So I might prefer one or the other today or tomorrow. I might change my mind, but I consider these four albums to be absolutely perfect and all amazing in their own rights, and with the slight differences that they have. So let's get to the top three. Number 3 is Rainbow Rising. All right, so one of the best cover arts ever produced. The fist getting hold of the rainbow, the mountains, and that kind of boiling thing, volcano or whatever that is. It's just great. It just screams metal at you. All right, and even if metal was not a thing yet, it was, but in a very different way than how we conceive it today. Okay, so it's most people just called it hard rock, and that's it. Anyway, that's beside the point. Rising, what can we say? I don't know. I don't know if anyone. Yes, of course, Ian Pace with Deep Purple had been innovative, but Cozy Powell, I think he just took it to another level when it comes to drumming, And you listen to A Light in the Black, the last song of the album, and basically it's a power metal song. It's a power metal song in 1976, the year that I was born. I consider it to be one of the very first power metal songs, together with Warrior from Riot that came out the year after, in 77. Anyway, it's just incredible. And then you have, of course, also the first, what I consider to be the first epic metal song, which is Stargazer. I mean, tell me Stargazer isn't the most epic thing that you can think of. Dun, da, da, dun, dun, da, da, dun, dun, da, da, dun, dun, da, da, da. Man, that is absolutely freaking crazy. It's so good, it's crazy. And the other songs are a bit more on the rock side and a bit more on the bluesy side, you know. But still they're incredibly great. I mean, Run with the Wolf, nothing to do with our own Run with the Wolf, but it's just great. And then Starstruck, it's very rock and roll, but very heavy at the same time for its time, you know, and it's great. Tired Woman with that kind of progressive intro with Tony Carey's keyboards. Perfect. I mean, it's perfect. I could listen to this album every day of my life and never be bored by it. So that's just how good it is. And then we come to the top two, and sometimes I cheat and I put these two together because they really sound like a sort of a double album, if you will. It's like Keeper 1 and Keeper 2 from Halloween. You know, you hear they are part of the same mold, and I think the same applies to these two. And I'm talking, of course, about number 2, Heaven and Hell, and number 1, More Bruise. Alright, so these are absolutely amazing albums. These are my favorite albums of all times, and because, you know, it's just the perfect mixture between Tony Iommi's incredible riffing, Ronnie's vocals, Geezer Butler on bass, who is a real genius, I think, and of course the drumming from Bill Ward and then Vinny Appice. I mean, a little bit different from one to the other, but both great and perfectly fitting with what the band was trying to achieve, you know. And I mean, what can we say about these records that hasn't been said 1,000 times? They're just amazing. I mean, Heaven and Hell opens with Neon Nights. So Neon Nights is so good. It's so freaking good. It's a great album. And it starts off great with Neon Nights. Alright? Powerful, fast. With all this, again, with the images of dragons and kings and knights that have been Ronnie's trademark from the lyrical point of view. And you know, this was Sabbath saying to all the other bands out there, we are Black Sabbath, we are heavy metal, and we are still relevant. I mean, they have gone through a couple of not so great records. The last ones with Ozzy weren't, I mean, they weren't bad, but they weren't as good as the previous ones. And the split and everything, and they were already considered to be kind of an old band at that point. And with the split with Ozzy, many people were thinking, okay, Sabbath is done. Like hell, you know. They came back with this, and Neon Nights is like a statement. It's a, we're Black Sabbath, we're heavy metal, we're relevant, and we're still kicking everyone's ass. And they did. Boy, if they did. And you know, you have Children of the Sea as the second song on Heaven and Hell. I mean, Children of the Sea. It's one of the songs that hooked me into Sabbath, you know. As I said, when I watched their live performance, which was televised on the Italian Monsters of Rock in 1992, this was one of the first songs that the video music used to play, and it used to show on their TV, and I heard that, and I was immediately hooked, and I said, man, this man has an incredible voice, and this is such a cool, mystical sounding song, opening a new world for you. Really, it's what can we say? And then, of course, title track is one of my favorite riffs ever. Complete, total, utter masterpiece. It's da na 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 da da da. I mean da 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 da. Can you do better than that? Prove it. It's fucking hard. Anyway, and also I would like to say something about "Lonely Is the Word." "Lonely Is the Word" is a crazy good doom metal song. It's a bit overrated. Sorry, underrated. I think it's a bit underrated, but it's a classic. And then we move on to Mob Rules. I already talked to you about Mob Rules in one of my very first videos here on Patreon, and Mob Rules is just amazing. It's my favorite album. Not a single song which isn't great. All right. I mean, the weakest link on Heaven and Hell was Walk Away, which is not a bad song at all. It's still good, but not on the same level as the others. Here I think that every song has got its own place and amazing riffing, and I know some people will point out Sleeping Away as being the weak link here, but honestly I think Sleeping Away is absolutely great. It's much better than Walk Away, and never noticed that they both use the word away in the title. But yeah, I think riffing on Sleeping Away, I just love it. So it's to me, it's a very strong song, even if of course it's not as strong as the best moments of this album, like Falling Off the Edge of the World. I mean, Falling Off the Edge of the World is mystical. It's epic. It's incredible. It's incredible. And then of course, Country Girl. I mean, the lyrics made sound. The title made sound more silly than it actually is in terms of lyrical content, But man, what riffs! What riffs are there? It's incredible. Of course, then Over and Over, which we did a cover of with Crimson Dawn, as you know. It's another great moment. But as I said, really every song here is a masterpiece, and the Sign of the Southern Cross. I mean, what kind of a great song is that? Is that like from the point of view of the band? I think it can be considered like the ideal successor to what Heaven and Hell was, the song on the Heaven and Hell album. And but it's again, it has this kind of mystical feeling. It has this great heavy riffs. It has blistering lead guitar by Tony Iommi. It has amazing lyrics. When I had a blog, back when blog were a thing, and I had one for a short period of time before Facebook came in and changed the landscape, of internet. When I had a blog, my subtitle on the blog was "On a Small World West of Wonder, Somewhere Nowhere All," which is taken from the lyrics of Sign of the Southern Cross. It's to this day one of my favorite songs, also because of the great lyrics. All right, and it's an outstanding work here. And I have to say also, Jeff Nichols' keyboards here were absolutely on point and perfect. He gets overrated. Sorry, today I cannot say underrated. I always say overrated. Anyway, is really underrated, I think, his contribution, because back then it wasn't hip for metal bands to have a keyboard player, so you were forced to hide him in the background on live shows, and couldn't be part of the official lineup and all that bullshit thing, because it was considered to be something too soft or too rock to have its place in a metal band. It's just a silly idea, but sometimes it's sign of the times. Sometimes it happens in a certain period. There is some kind of stigma against something from the metal community. I mean, it's very silly, but it does happen. So anyway, I think we're done. I think I've talked quite enough. I hope you enjoyed this 2 series video. And what's more to say, let me know what would you like to see next. If you like this, and if you want me to rate and do a chart of other bands, and I will get to it. Alright, of course, that's to be one band that I very well know and like, so please don't suggest me to do like the whole discography of Mayhem, because there's Marco for that. Alright, okay, doom on and stay metal.